because it was allowed where I grew up, I didn't see it as disrespect. And he would always say, like, you're disrespecting me. Like, that's disrespectful. And I didn't give him the honor as a man. Even though we were still young, it was just not the best way to speak to a man that I'm dating. He lacked I would say, the love portion of things. Like, he didn't know how to accept love. He didn't like being mushy. So for a long time, he was love you. And I'm like, what does that mean? We had different areas where it was causing us not to connect because I was used to the love side of things and he was used to the respect. And we were both lacking in areas that we wanted to be fulfilled.
Today, I got my brother,
Sir.
for sure, for certainly. One of the things that when you first came to Empowerment Ministries, I told you that, you needed the ministry. Like when you walked in, I'm hearing the voice of God, and he was like, he needs the ministry, but this ministry needs him.
Right.
So it was like off the bat, I try to make sure that I show myself friendly when when new guys are coming in. I don't want them to feel excluded or anything, but it was when you walked in, bro. It wasn't like I spoke to you, I talked to you, walked in the door. It's like ministry need, like, evidently. And you came in and you made a significant impact. And I told Corey and a couple other guys, I'm like, one of the things I respected about Evan is that he's 6'4", 6'5", 6'7". He can draw attention just by walking in the door, but he didn't scream. He didn't want to say, hey, guys, look at me. It was I'm here to serve.
Yeah.
So appreciate that 100%. I'm going to kind of get to this part of your wife's episode. Hers was entitled Married to a Narcissist, right? And so one of the things that she said in the podcast was having a child and not knowing how to connect emotionally.
Wow. Yeah.
Another thing that she said was she felt like she had to fight others' battles, you know what I'm saying, growing up.
Absolutely.
And then y'all dated for 10 years, was it? Or around?
So
how did that?
We dated for about, 2013. So we dated for about 3 years before we got married. It was on and off. Because,
okay, got you.
So
that's okay. That's what she was.
Makeup. So about three to 4 years. Before we got married.
And it was a matter of, she said her family seen therapy as one way. Your family looked at therapy like a necessity. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so it was there was a lot of factors that we were 19 when we met, right? So there was a lot of healing that her and I didn't even know we needed when we first met. We were not ready for a relationship, let alone marriage. Like when she met me, matter of fact, I like to say she didn't even meet me. She met my representative.
Wow.
Because I think Chris Rock said that, but I was in a space to where I was trying to find me.
Yeah.
So she met, and I had issues with identity that I really probably just in the last 5 or 6 years kind of, but so I had different representatives for different arenas. She met my academic representative. And so she fell in love with that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then as time went on, she started to see that guy wasn't really who I was. You know what I mean? That was somebody that I was portraying, not maliciously, but just just how I coped with my identity issues. And so the really, and shout out to my wife, because she made it seem like she covered me. She made it seem like our issues were her fault. But at the root of our issues were my identity crisis. She didn't know. She couldn't attach to me because she didn't know who to attach to, which representative. So we were back and forth as I was trying to figure out who I was, and I guess her too. She was trying to, figure out who she was, but therapy was integral. And like you said, my family, my mother in particular, kind of broke the generational curse. I don't really want to call it a curse, but the generational pattern of not dealing with issues via therapy. So she started going to therapy, my sister, my brother, And so she kind of made it common in our family. I did, and then Kynesha did. And so it was at that point for her that she began to, open up and see different issues that still affected us today from childhood and things like that. And so, but that was like way into our marriage.
So maybe that's what I'm remembering. She was like, it took a while into y'all's marriage to like kind of heal and get better. Because kind of bump the questions a little bit right now. Because you just said you had your own identity crisis.
Absolutely.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about what that was.
Man, so identity crisis. My issue was that I don't want to disparage my dad or my mom. You know what I'm saying? Because they did a great job. But my dad had some issues when he was younger, that translated into his adulthood, and that was emotional connection. And I spent most of my time around my dad growing up. And so I didn't have that. He wasn't very affirming and, loving in that way when I was younger. It's not because he didn't want to be. He loved the way he knew how to love, and he did a really good job at doing what he knew how to do. Yeah. But he didn't really know how to connect emotionally and affirm. And so what that created in me was this void to where I felt like there was something wrong with me, like something inherently wrong with me. So I spent a lot of my life trying to cover that. You know what I mean? I covered it with sports. I covered it with academics. Like I tried to find things to attach myself to where I can find like coverings, temporary coverings that I can attach to that people can see me and say, oh, he's somebody. And so that's where I was when I met my wife. Yeah. I was I had a cover on so she can look at me and say, he's somebody. But when we got married, like those layers started to come off, and she started to see up under all of those things. And marriage is like a mirror, right? Because not only is she seeing it, now I'm seeing it for the first time too. And so I have to like, okay, wow, like something is not right, and I have to figure out what it is. And so I hope I'm not rambling.
No, you're good, bro.
One of the things about identity is that I think it's attached to self-esteem, right? It's attached to low self-worth. And it's one of the sneakiest forms of attack trauma because you really don't know you in it when you in it, right? Like, at all.
At all.
You have no idea. And so you just think you're doing life, but you're doing life through this hurt, this trauma. So I thought, and I probably said and projected that she was the issue in our relationship. You know what I mean? When actuality, it was me.
Yeah, because you was getting to see like the actual of her, and then not really dealing with who you were as a person.
Absolutely.
And I was just talking to another guy about how once, like I grew up playing sports, like majority of young men or whatever, and my identity was wrapped all the way in that.
Yes, sir.
And so when I got older and realized, no, I have to get a real life, that was one of the scariest things for me. And I don't think a lot of guys talk about it. At least I haven't been in those spaces where they're like, no, you really have to see who are you as a person. Yeah. Because everything for me was basketball. I'm a good basketball player. I do this, I do that. My identity was wrapped in what I did, and I never really knew exactly who I was. As much as I tried to sit with myself and figure out what I liked and didn't like, it was always, I don't feel like doing that. I'm finna go play basketball, or I needed to be affirmed in that way. So that really makes sense. It was the question about therapy for one. And she said, or my wife said, that she went to therapy because it was the only emotion, anger was the only emotion that she knew how to express.
Yes.
What was some of the emotions that you were witnessing from your wife at the time? Like, did you think this not gonna work? I seen it, this not gonna work.
Absolutely. So when she said that, when I actually heard her say that, when she was talking to Aisha, shout out to Aisha, because that show really brought out a lot that we never had spoken about. Really? Her and I never even talked about. So there was when she was okay, she alluded to this in the episode, right? I was in this space to where when I met her, she was kind of sweet, you know, but as time went on, that anger, you know what I mean, really came out. And I used to be around, when I started coming around her family, it was like this thing in my mind that I was so confused because everybody saw her as this sweet, caring, loving. When they used to talk about her, and I used to be like, who is this lady that they're talking about? It can't be my wife. Because like all I get, it seemed like at the time, all I get is anger. Like, because like she said, every emotion was expressed through anger. So if she was sad, I didn't even know I was making her sad. Like it would just come out as anger. Like, and I'm talking about quick, fierce anger and disrespect. You know what I mean? Like Pastor says, like when wives are upset at husbands, they express it through disrespect, and we express it through we withhold love. Right. And so she did that, and there were times where I'm like, you know what? I thought that's who she was. So I'm like, if this is who she is, if this angry, like she's always angry, I can't deal with that.
Dude, that is,
you know what I mean?
that is wild, because it's like we project unknowingly sometimes. And like you said, if that's who she is, I don't want no parts of that. But it really wasn't who she is.
At all.
Right. It was just what she probably experienced, and she didn't know how to communicate her emotions. So to the women watching this, it's like there has to be a point to where it's like, okay, let's sit down and let's just talk it out. Let's talk everything out. My wife was trying to convince me that therapy was a necessity. I'm like, man, therapy ain't a necessity, man. Therapy ain't something that you should, you got to do. But she said in her therapy session was when the lady helped her identify that anger is the only thing that you can express. And she needed somebody to help her hand and walk her through those emotions, because when we would have tough conversations, or if I would go do something, I'm like, why are you angry about that?
Right.
I'm like, that's nothing to be upset about. But she wasn't even like crying upset. She was, like you said, attitude, mad, or little slick comments or words. I'm like, all right, like chill on that, because but I didn't know at the time. So I guess therapy is.
You was definitely wild, and I remember she said you used to go hoop at like 2 in the morning or something like that. I'm like, this dude.
This was a thing. Do I want to tell this story? Do I want to tell this story?
Tell it, man.
Basically, we had to go to the gym at that time because we wouldn't get caught being in the gym. I'll just put it like that. It was other times where if we went to a gym at any other point in the day, there was a potential that the access that we had would get revoked. So it was one time we went to the gym like at 2 in the morning. We got kicked out and went to a park because it was just like and it was freezing outside. Yeah. But it was like we wanted to play basketball that bad. So she would definitely get upset. And even now, I still have to be like mindful of that, because now that, we got a kid. And so when my friends text me like, hey, let's get in the gym or whatever, I'm like, I can't leave my wife and kid at home at this time. So like all of that kind of shifted, you get what I'm saying, in the mix. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about as well, because you seem big on spiritual warfare. And for me, I have to dive more into it, right? I'm aware of it. I do things to kind of prepare for it, but I watch how you worship in church. I watch how you lead your family. Did you have that role model growing up in that regard? Like, what was that like growing up?
Not really, actually. Like I said, I grew up mostly with my father. Now, my mother's side of the family is she grew up in church, but after the age of maybe like 7 or 8, I really wasn't over there that much. I was with my dad, and my dad is not religious at all.
Gotcha.
In fact, he doesn't. Christianity is like, he's probably upset to this day that I'm a Christian.
Wow.
He so I didn't have that role model growing up. The way that I worship more so it just comes from experience. Like it's really genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't watch anybody worship and then like emulate it. It came from experience of deliverance, experience of just God's hand in my life. Like there's no way I cannot worship. Like I have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of who God has been in my life. And that has helped our family dynamic. Worship in general has helped our family dynamic because what you see on Sunday is really just the gun smoke from my life. Like, it's just the after effect. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the real worship is going on at home. You know what I'm saying? It's in how we prioritize God before everything.
Yeah.
And the effects of that is his hand, or like he has more room to move in our lives. And so Sunday is like the after effect of how he's moving in our lives. And so prioritizing God and actually submitting to him, because there was a time when I was really early in my walk where I was like halfway submitted. You know what I'm saying? I was
100%.
like, I'm a lot of people go through it. But like when I made a decision to like really submit, every area of my life, including my family life, you know what I mean, look different. And that's, to this day, I know for a fact that's the only reason my wife and I are still married.
Wow.
That's the only because more so than me, she trusted and clinged on to the God in me more so than me. Because like up until maybe we've been married going on 9 years, the first 4 years of our marriage, I was messed up.
Yeah.
I was struggling with insecurity, jealousy, even of her.
Man.
I mean, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. That's something that I'm actually still being shepherded through.
Gotcha.
But it's putting God first and actually submitting to him. And then God gave us a destiny that we both can move towards that keeps us together.
Makes sense. It's
You know what I
powerful.
mean? And so,
When for one, people, if you're watching, I said I watch him worship, it's because I'm on the production team and we're always saying, get Evan. Because Evan is, I got his hands lifted,
Yeah.
Second thing is, what was the hardest part of your life to submit to God, do you think?
Ooh, man. I got a list.
Okay.
The hardest part to actually submit. Okay, I'm gonna go two-pronged.
Okay.
Because the first one I'm actually still dealing with.
Got you.
And that is my diet, man.
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't expect that
deep.
one.
It's not
I
deep.
didn't expect that.
But bro, look, I like to eat. Like,
Yeah.
People can't, like, you can't tell because I'm slim.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But I really like to eat.
Yeah.
And God has been dealing with me. Like whenever you want to stop doing something and you can't, it's an addiction. It's an hour stronghold. It has you. You know what I'm saying? So like there's been too many times in the past where like I want to stop eating a certain way and I can't. So okay. But even before that, God was dealing with me about my eating habits. And I was like, nah, God, I want to continue to eat the way I eat.
Yeah.
I really love fried chicken.
Yeah.
And I want to continue to eat fried chicken until, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, is, how do I put this? It was hard to surrender like my plans for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's really tied to the identity thing because like you said, you were wrapped up in basketball, right? And so there were things, basketball was one of them that I was so wrapped up in that I had to let go and surrender. But it was hard to let go of that facade. It was hard to let go
100%.
of like what I had planned for me.
100%.
You know what I mean? And when I decided to, that's when my life, changed completely. Like, there's so many things that I wanted to do that I thank God that he didn't allow me to do because I wouldn't be where I am.
So I needed to hear that because that's I think probably number 2 for me. Number 1 was my finances. I still to this day, like as of we talking right now.
Yeah.
Right now I still struggle with that, bro. Because I've seen what it's like to not have any money.
Come on.
And I remember there was an encounter I had with God where I actually started to question if God was real. I shared in my wife's podcast the first time I thought he wasn't hearing me was when I felt like I couldn't stop cheating, like I couldn't stop talking to other girls. I had to talk to more than one. The second time was when I think I was just turning 18 and everything felt fake. Church felt fake. Ministries, I would go to different churches, like, if our pastor's traveling to different ones or different ones have revivals going on, it just seemed like everything was a show. And I'm like, man, God ain't real. And I remember being down to maybe like $40 in my account, right? In high school, most high school kids don't have money, whatever. But I had a job, and I'm like, bro, where's my money at? I don't understand what's going on. And so I had all these fines at school, like not fines, but like dues. So senior dues, and you got cap and gown coming up, prom, all these different things. And I remember Dr. Harper. I didn't tell a soul how bad we were struggling. I didn't tell anybody. I just wasn't going to go to this. I wasn't going to go to prom. I wasn't going to get a yearbook. I wasn't going to go on a senior trip. Wasn't going to do any of that because I didn't have the money to do it. Dr. Harper calls me into his office. I'm thinking, I know I'm not in trouble because I don't do nothing to get in trouble. So I'm like, he's probably wanting to talk, but never been in there. He was like, hey, I want to buy your tux for prom.
Wow.
I'm like, what you mean? He's like, I want to buy your tux. I'm like, where'd that come from? He was like, I want to get it. I'm like, all right, cool, appreciate it. And genuine, that's my guy. Another teacher, she said, hey, are you going to prom? I was like, because he's saying he going to buy the tux. Well, I'm like, I think so. She was like, cool, I want to get your tickets. I'm like, okay. I ain't told nobody I can't afford this stuff. They just randomly paying for it. I got another fee. I had an art fee, and I had my senior dues. So I took the 40 that I had. I went to go pay the dues. She was like, oh, no, somebody else took care of it. I'm like, who took care of it? She was like, I'm not telling you who took care of it. Somebody did. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, let me try to go work a little bit and get this yearbook because I want a yearbook. I go to give the lady the money, and she was like, wait. What's your name? I said Tyrell. She was like, oh, no, somebody paid for it already. I'm like, who is buying all this stuff?
Oh, man. Wow.
Who is paying for all these different things? And there was something else that happened too. And I cannot remember what it was, but it was like, somebody paid for our dinner. Me and I used to go out to eat after prom. And it was just like, I had no money. I prayed about it a little bit. I'm like, God, how am I going to do this? Because I want to, but because I feel like I can't afford to. And it was just he just showed up. And so now I don't understand why I'm still struggling. I don't know how I got long-winded like this, but I don't know why I'm still struggling financially to turn that over to him, because it's like he's proved time and time again that he can provide. You know what I'm saying? So,
but God does have a way of doing that. Like when we have those genuine questions of the reality of who he is. Like, I mean, I would imagine there was a time in church history where that was taboo. Like, you bet not question it. Like, but let's be honest, like a lot of us have those times. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Even when we've been in the faith for a while, where it's like, is God real? But like, he has a way of like reinforcing the reality of who he is. Yeah. You know, in those moments. You know what I mean? So that is powerful. I don't know why you went there, but that's super powerful. But yeah.
He definitely has a way of like showing up out of nowhere. And then I think if you ask genuinely, like if you have a genuine desire to be like God, like even for me, I don't go back to, is he real or not anymore? It's just, why am I not seeing you in my life right now? Because back then it was I don't even think you exist, to be honest. To now it's and again, that situation with Prophet Greer, that one situation, which is why it's important to always be ready to witness and to like be accurate in what you're doing, because that one situation, as bad as it was, that is the reason I know God exists. Like I can always look back to that and be like, you remember when that happened? That man came from a different state and told your business, and then pulled you to the side and told you some more of your business. Like, that man came from Texas.
Come on, man.
Never met him before. Yeah. So it's one of them things to where he shows up. So one of the things that I definitely want to ask too is, like, you had therapy. She had a hard time at the time expressing emotions. You had a hard time revealing yourself, like who you truly were. Right now, how do you regulate your emotions as a man, not just to your wife, but also to your children?
Man, that is a good question, sir. So how do I regulate my emotions to my wife? So first of all, I still do. I'm still healing from that, like being able to regulate my emotions. But I try to I use a put it like this. I try to get to the root of every issue, right? So like whenever I react or I do something, I say something in anger, like I stop myself and say, okay, like why did I just do that? Yeah. Why did I just say that? I was gonna say I use a thought tracker, okay, but that's like an exercise that they give you. in therapy, a thought tracker. So like you have to write down your thought,
Okay.
and then like write down how you were feeling, like what I'm sorry, write down an action, and then what thought led to that action, things like that. So like, I'm not necessarily writing it down, but I'm always analyzing like, okay, why did I just snap on my daughter?
Yeah.
Like she said this, why did I react like this? And man, that has worked wonders, because there are times where frustration leaks out, and if you think it's an isolated incident, but it's really not.
Yeah.
And if you don't get to the root of why you reacted like that, it's going to continue to pop up, and it's going to damage, you know what I mean? So to answer your question though, like I try to take inventory of my actions and then get to the root of why I did it, and deal with the emotion behind and what caused the emotion behind the action. So,
so when you do get to the root of it, is it more so, is it something that's like you try to remove that root, like uproot that? Like, is it a thought, a feeling, maybe a past experience? Yeah. Like, or is any of that what takes place sometimes too?
It depends. So like, I'm gonna give you an example. My son, I love my son, but my son is very vocal about things that he like might not agree with. So like if you tell him to do something, he's gonna vocalize his disagreement or like the fact that he wants to do something else, right? And for me, like that makes me snap.
Yeah.
Because I equate that with disrespect. You know what I mean? And so like recently I've had to like check myself, okay, you know what? I'm snapping on him all the time, and I'm snapping on him too much. Why am I doing that like to my son? And so I had to trace it back to its roots. Like I had to really sit and think and pray on it, and talk to, you know, my accountability, and but the root of it is like how I was raised.
Yeah.
My father demanded and commanded respect to the highest level. And so disrespect to me is like the biggest, like, it just makes my bones shudder.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like I've had to like, okay, you know what? I have to give my son more room to, you know, be expressive. Now disrespect, like we cutting that up, but I have to give him more room. So like I linked that to, you know what I'm saying, how my father raised me. And so that's not something to be uprooted. That's not something, it's just something, okay, I'm aware of it and I can deal with it as it comes, because now I'm now aware of it. You know what I mean? So
makes sense. Because I'm trying to see, is that something like, even with the disrespect, I think there are some things that we hold tight to, not because we believe them, but because we experienced it so much. It's like how you said with the disrespect. Of course, there are certain things that he might say that's like, hey, we're not going to even do that.
Right.
But having that time to express an opinion, right?
Absolutely, it's important.
My little cousins, I would let them express themselves. I'm like, look, you have a say in this too. Like you're as long as you're not talking crazy. I remember actually one time, that's crazy you brought that up. My dad, I was young, bro. I was like maybe 3 years old. And we were finna go play basketball. And he was taking a long time. I'm like, man, hurry up, stupid. And my dad picked me up and pinned me on the couch. He was like, don't you ever call me stupid. He said, dude, I'm your dad. Yeah. And that's not a word we use. I was like, dang, my bad, big homie. Like, I ain't think it was that deep.
Not a big
I'm
deal,
like,
man.
dog, come on, man. Like, I'm ready to go hoop. You brushing your hair. I'm like, what you doing? I'm like, but I was like, hurry up, stupid. Because what he was doing felt stupid.
Right.
But
see, I probably wouldn't even be like living to tell the story. If I ever said anything like that to my dad.
That's like,
ain't no way.
And watching him, because I had a lot of experiences with him, but it was seeing how fast he went from that bathroom sink to pinning me down.
Wow.
Like it was a distance, bro. I was like, man, hurry up. I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, hurry up, stupid. And I couldn't even finish stupid before I was in the air.
Yeah.
And on my back. So it's like I try to be careful even when talking. Like that experience made me be careful in how I talk to everybody. Right. That one thing at that age. So knowing that we have to be gentle in how we parent and not always being like, stepped over, because like we remember that stuff from being a kid, bro. Yeah. Like being a little kid. So that's why I asked, like, when you're relaying, and I meant to say relay and not regulate, but relaying your emotions to your wife,
Right.
to your children.
Yeah.
It's so you said the thought track.
And there's some things too, like, both of those, but there are some things that you might get to the root of it and you might need to go see your therapist. You know what I'm saying? Or you might need to get to the root of it and you might need to go see your pastor. Like, there's things that you might need to go see somebody. And that's happened too.
Yeah.
Bro, I had to go see pastor. This was probably like last year.
Okay.
Where the whole, and I'm getting off topic.
No, you good, man.
So, there was, long story short, my wife, I can't remember. I think she either got like some praise on her job, or there was something happening in her life where she was like being elevated, and I kind of started being a little funky towards her. And it didn't take me long to assess what the issue is, because I had dealt with this issue before. It was the whole jealousy thing. You know what I'm saying? Feeling like if she is elevated to a point beyond where I am, then she'll no longer need me, type, things like that.
Gotcha.
So like it forms this jealousy. So jealous of my wife.
Yeah.
I had to go to pastor. Like, that's not something I could just, okay, I'm aware of it. But nah, I had to go see somebody. I had to go talk to somebody. And pastor, bro, he helped me with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He helped me to, know that, okay, you know what? First of all, the first issue is you're not focusing on and being thankful for what God has for you. Like, do you believe what God has for you in your life? Why are you looking at what somebody, your wife or anybody else, like, God has something for you.
Yeah.
So he redirected my focus, you know what I'm saying, to where, I mean, honestly, at this point, I believe I'm actually getting beyond.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But, there are some things that you can't just.
Bro, that's a good one. That's a great way to paradigm shift for sure. Cause that's I've never experienced that. So like hearing that for the first, as far as like seeing your wife, I think for me with Aisha, I want to see her thrive in every way possible. A lot of what our issue is and how she communicates with others. And so I had to go back and be like, what is it in me that's upset? I remember when we first started dating, she would wake up. I used to want to wake up to a good morning text. I'll wake up and I get a notification on Facebook saying Aisha posted. I'm like, man, that used to irritate my soul.
Yeah.
Like, why? She ain't text me yet. She on Facebook talking to these chumps. What you talking about? I ain't even get a text yet, but it was like, what is up with that, Ty? Are you that emotionally sad or broken? Like, she ain't talking to no dude. She just ain't wake up and text you. And so I had to get over it. And one of the things that we did was I was like, look, just do it like every other morning. Like, just get on Facebook. You don't got to text me. I want to keep feeling this feeling until I'm over it. I don't know what that was with me. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it was one of the things that I definitely had to do. So that leads me to my next question, as far as how do you lovingly check your wife when she's when she's like out of pocket?
Yeah.
How do you know when to let God handle it?
Absolutely.
And then when you're supposed to.
Bro, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I've gotten so good at that. I'm like, I mean, it's so arrogant, but I have so much experience, because I used to be kind of. So I heard somebody say, there's good communication, bad communication, and no communication. The only thing worse than bad communication is no communication.
Okay.
And that's what I used to suffer with. Like, my wife would do things that out of line. If I can use that term. You said it, so I'm just repeating it. If anybody mad at me for saying that, he said it first.
It's on me.
So I used to be a no communication guy because I didn't like confrontation, right? So I would react instead of communicate. So like when she was wilding out, like I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna communicate by just either getting back at her, like I'm gonna do something to get back at her. And then I found out through therapy and preaching that that's toxic.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really toxic.
100%.
That's super toxic. So I had to begin to work on. So like, how do I lovingly correct her? Bro, first thing I do is any issue, right, that we have, the first thing I do is go in prayer. Okay. Like, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's a fact. Yeah. I actually do this. Like, I go in prayer and seek wisdom. God, how do I handle this? Right? and then and in my prayer, I asked God, reveal to me the root. Like, because I don't ever want to just deal with, she's wilding right now, but why? And so whenever I come to her, I try to, first of all, I never come to her when we're upset. And when I come to her, it's at a time where we're neutral, we're chilling, and I don't deal with just what she did. I try to deal with what's underneath it, right? So I'm not just attacking. So it doesn't seem like I'm attacking her. So I say, like, I felt that, when you, I don't know, talk to me this certain way, and maybe that's something that we need to deal with. There might be some, I try to connect it to something, you know what I mean? 100%. So she doesn't feel it's an ad hominem attack.
Yeah.
And I have gotten
really
so good at that.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoy it now. There was times where I feared bringing her issues because I feared the reaction, like the visceral reaction.
100%.
But now it's like God has given me wisdom to, bring it to her. Number one, while she's calm, not in the heat of the moment, while she's calm. And number two, not making attacks. And then another thing I do too, like I always try to address what I may have done to bring about that reaction or whatever happened first.
Yeah.
Like I always try to address my part first.
Fellas, I hope you're taking notes, because that's definitely the route to go.
Yeah.
Because prayer, like even taking it into prayer is one of the harder parts for me. Like sincere prayer, because I know that's when I know it really got on my nerves or really triggered something in me, because I'm like, I gotta go pray about this. Other things is like we've built that rapport of like, let's have a conversation, and I'm gonna kind of flip it on you. How does she lovingly check you? Like, what is the way that do you give her that space to be like, hey, look, you said this, and I ain't like that. Or are you always the good guy and you're not really tripping that
much? she has to check me a lot. Man, how she love it. So my wife is frank.
Okay.
She's very frank. And at this point in our marriage, I think I'm okay with her just saying it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't like that you did this. Now, sometimes I don't like it and I'm tempted to like argue and defend myself. And so, but we're at the point now where she has the space to just like, yo, Ev, I didn't like this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that you do this. I feel like, now there are times where she waits. Like timing is very important 100%. When you're addressing issues. Like some issues are like things that you just deal with right away. Some issues you need to like actually take some time before you. And so like when she comes to me with like stuff that she got like a list, like, I know like this has been something. And so I'm not answering the question. How does she love it?
I mean that like is there a way that
I don't know if she has like
a method.
So like I think in our growing as a married couple, I've learned to take responsibility now. So she's more comfortable. She doesn't have to like, tiptoe. Like she has dealt with the anger. So like she doesn't just, lash out at me.
Yeah.
She's learned how to communicate. But on my end, I have learned to take responsibility and not try to be so defensive and like actually take what she's saying and process it so that now I believe she feels super comfortable with saying, this made me feel this way. Even if she can't communicate it well, she can at least say and know that she's not going to be like, girl, get out of here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Well, this is what you do. You do this, that, and the third. Don't talk to me about it.
Because that's so easy to do.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Because majority of the time, I acted that way because it was something you did, and I tried not to act that way, but it just kind of came out anyway. But at the same time, like I told Aisha, just don't try to have a serious sit-down conversation with me when I'm working or when I'm getting back from work.
Right.
Please, because like I'm gonna do my best to give you that mental attention that you need, like listening to you and not trying to defend you. But when I'm working and I'm in a flow state and you break that pattern up, it's hard for me to sit there and actually listen. This isn't even just to respond to you or apologize. I just can't even physically concentrate on what you're saying. So in the other time, we used to go out to dinner. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, the finance part, I ain't finna keep spending $60 to have a hard conversation. If I'm gonna spend $60, we can eat and we gonna have a good time.
Right.
If we want to do that, we can eat some, some noodles or something and talk about it. But so watching her growth in how she communicates her emotions, because she's a writer too.
Yeah.
A lot of times she had to write how she felt, and that took some getting used to, because I'm used to people just kind of communicating how they feel. And so when she couldn't do it, it required a level of patience out of me that I didn't know I had. And to be honest, I didn't want to have it. I'm like, man, I wish we could just talk this through. The first time she did it, I thought she cheated on me. I was like, why are you crying? Like, she couldn't get the words. I'm like, this girl cheated on me?
Right.
And honestly, she didn't know the words to use to express how she felt. So my mind took it way left. When the whole time she was just like, I just couldn't get it out without crying. So it's a lot.
Yeah, communication is harder than what it might seem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're trying to communicate feelings. That is one of the most difficult. It's a skill, really, that it's a marriage skill that we have to develop. And like when you're hooping, you have to learn how to dribble with your left hand. You have to learn how, like, that's one of those basic skills. And I think, like, when you figure out what your communication barrier is, because I think we all have individual barriers
100%.
of communication. You know what I'm saying? Mine was fear. Like, I don't want to experience the backlash from what I'm about to tell you. You know what I'm saying? To be like, that's my barrier. So like, it's helping me in communication, dealing with that barrier. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'm no longer, I don't fear you. I love you enough not to fear you.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
You're giving me a completely different perspective on this, because I've never thought about the fear of, I think because I rehearsed the conversation so many times in many different ways. Yeah. I got an answer for almost everything. And some people hate that. I got an answer for almost everything.
Yeah, I know you that type, definitely. You that type. So.
But it's like, so to hear you say I was like afraid of what happened after that. Yeah. It's like, man, we can take it far left. And even how you said communicate, like Corey's back there he's running sound today, and cameras and stuff. I remember there was a situation I had in my life, and I'm talking to him about it, and I just start crying, and I'm like,
that's crazy.
And it wasn't even it was heavy. It was heavy, but I didn't even feel like I could tell my wife at the time, because how we communicated in the past was, if I show emotion, she's gonna find a way to make it about her, and that caused me to like not talk, period. Because I'm like, if I can't even tell you, and so I'm grateful for her for working through that, because she would just start listening and asking me questions, and that did more for me than anything. She like, because being able to talk and not really thinking about how you're gonna feel after the fact. So kind of seeing, both sides of that. You're afraid of how they're gonna respond to you. I'm afraid that I can't even talk about me. Wow. So I'm trying to wrap this up, because it's just I guess I'll wrap it up with let me see, bro, because it's hard to do this. There are so many questions I want to ask you, and I know like timing is not. I'm trying to pick which one. I'm gonna just go with one. No, I'm not. You have been instrumental in a lot of the growth that we've seen at our church. A lot of growth that men have seen in their lives at our church, right? And seeing how instrumental you've been, how your wife loves you, you know what I'm saying, your kids love you and respect you. Seeing that from my perspective, I didn't have a lot of male figures growing up, so it's like I truly honor that. I watch you. There are a couple guys at church who I watch, because how they like Chris, the way that he loves his family and his wife is second to none, bro. Facts. I just love the way that he does that. And I just kind of watch certain guys and try to take certain things from them. So seeing how you worship, I struggle in that area too. I really do. So I'm always saying, hey, get Evan real quick. Evan like this with his hands lifted. Get Evan real quick.
Man, Sunday, I'm gonna be nervous now. Sunday,
because man, and it's like we try to like show that atmosphere of what's really going on. But it's guys like you who make that okay, if I'm being honest.
That's good.
There are a lot of, even Corey. Corey will be on the camera. He got his hands lifted in the camera move. I'm like, hey, Corey. And he said, bro. He moving, watch him.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he got his head.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
And so it's like, I've had an area, like that's been a barrier too. So for men watching this, there has to be a level of vulnerability that you express to your wives, and then to God. Like, you got to let God be God in your life for real. And I'm seeing that with you, for sure. So I appreciate you for being on the show, for coming to talk about, you know what I'm saying, y'all's past, your past, and your current. What are some of the things that you got coming up, like just in Evan's life,
man,
that you're excited about?
So I'm really in a space right now to where I'm trying to turn my attention inward. I've been doing so much lately, and I've kind of been, if I'm gonna be honest, not giving my family what they deserve. So I don't have a whole lot coming up, man. I'm this season of my life, I just had a baby, you know, my wife. So I'm turning my focus inward. I'm still doing some other things, but bro, I'm focusing on giving my family what they deserve in this season, man. So
that's powerful. That's upcoming, brother. That's what that's a lot. That requires a lot of time and attention, bro.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely, man.
So I'm gonna pray real quick and
do it.
get us out of here. Father, we thank you for this time of fellowship, God. We thank you that we are able to have these conversations. God, I pray that the people listening, that they would be ministered to in some way, shape, or form. Father, I pray that you would continue to bless Evan and his family. God, give them the space and the time that they need to continue to heal. Father, to be the examples, to set examples of a wonderful Christian family, God. I pray that you would give them everything that they need in this season of their life. Help us, again, to surrender ourselves to you as men, to be more vulnerable as men, Father God. We love you. We praise you. In Jesus' name that we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Cool. Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely, man.
100%.
Absolutely.